My special guest on the show today is the fierce leader of the Rainbow Seekers. Per their website, a ride on the rainbow will take you across the mountains of Motown, through fjords of folk, over the archipelagos of Americana, and at last into a funky Firth. Welcome to Hayes Hard Drive, Joe Hertler. Joe, my man, how goes
Hey,
it?
what's up?
Hey, it's going great. I'm so excited to get a chance to talk with you. And, as I was looking through everything and seeing dates and going back, it looks as though we're right at a decade in this musical journey that you've had.
Yeah.
And, when you obviously looking back on things, does it seem like that time it's been 10 years? Do you feel like that?
Yes and no. It's interesting. 10 years really marks the moment like I kind of started writing songs, and that first record. I had written all those songs, and it was really I just kind of had them, and happened to meet some other musicians in my town who later become my bandmates and some of my my best friends to this day. Um, it feels like we've been doing it seriously for probably like 7 or 8 years. That's really like when like the true formation of the band started. When it became kind of like that, the idea became a little more solidified amongst all of us, and we really like started thinking about maybe pursuing this. It wasn't even till maybe 4 or 5 years ago that we were like, all right, we're gonna try to really make this a focus. And then maybe 2 years ago was the point that we kind of quit our jobs and pursued it professionally. But yeah, it has been a long journey. It's kind of crazy because I think I was my sophomore or junior year in college that I started writing songs, which would have been the formation of, not the formation of the band, but when me and my guitar player Ryan first met, and really when I started writing songs for the first time and acquired an acoustic guitar. So
Yeah, you were talking about that sophomore year, and
mm-hmm.
you were at you're from Michigan,
Yep.
and you were attending Central Michigan University,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that LP that you recorded in the dorm room was the Hard Times LP.
Yeah.
So what was that
Yeah.
like? I know you're in college, and you're like, hey, was it kind of like, hey guys, let's get together and try to throw something together in the dorm room? This might be cool. What was the ideology behind getting that first LP recorded and done?
So the Hard Times, I didn't even know my bandmates at the time. Like I want to say I met Ryan, my guitar player, like it might have been like my super senior, maybe like super senior year, something like that. So I didn't really know them, and I didn't, at that time you're so unaware of what you're actually doing musically. That's like there's a lot of thought going into it, of course, but there's no like you're not overthinking anything. That's the best way to put it. But really, I was just like going through a break. I dated this girl all through high school, and it was like first love breakup kind of situation. I was just distraught, and was in college at the time, so you're just like feeling all alone in this situation or whatever, and like that song. Bluntly put, it was just a kind of like the mourning the the loss of my first love. It sounds so cheesy to even talk about it out. So so like trivial, really. But it was just kind of this like outpouring of these childish emotions at the time, which were very real at the moment. I was down and out, and just that is really kind of what stimulated the writing initially. And the girl that oh man, speaking of girlfriends, my actual girlfriend's calling me. Oh god, she's gonna hate that I hit decline. Crap. I'll just let it ring. Maybe we'll get lucky. She gets mad if I miss calls because I do it a lot. I'm sorry.
Hey,
I'm so sorry.
you know what? You have to be careful with missing calls with the girls, man.
Yeah.
You do that. They're you can't have that happen.
They go away. Here,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No,
Hey,
we've been together for, I don't don't know, 5 years or something. It's getting to that point, you know.
Oh, you're gonna have to
stuck through it through thick and thin.
That's right. So you're speaking of girls. Um, so the coffee house story. You start performing, doing some coffee house stuff, right? You're writing some music, and I'm assuming like after you get done doing the breakup, you're writing music, you're pouring your heart out, putting it out there on the sleeve, and you kind of see this girl here in the coffee house, and you decide you want to start performing, possibly to make a good impression.
Yes.
At the coffee house. So tell me that story.
Yeah. So again, it was sort of like there was this breakup that kind of stimulated the songwriting, and then a really close friend of mine passed away on a motorcycle. So it was all like I said, it was just like some hard times going on, and it was probably my sophomore or junior year. It might have been my junior now that I'm thinking about it, but I had this Comm 101 class in your basic communications class. And there was a girl named Lauren that was in this class, and you give your speeches or whatnot. She was giving a speech on like the open mic that she ran in town, which is at a little coffee shop called Kaya Coffee in Mount Pleasant, where I went to school. And my speech happened to be on like, I think it was like about trying to learn guitar and writing songs, because I just purchased a guitar. And just afterwards, she was like, "Yeah, you should come up to this open mic thing I have every week and play some of those songs," And she was really cute. I mean, I think there was some attraction there, and it never led to that, but we became really close friends, as I started doing these open mics. And that was just like the kind of, that place gave me a spot to like constantly be going and playing songs, and always like looking forward to like showing off new songs, because I'd write something, almost intentionally for the next week, just because I'd be like, oh, hey, my spot's next week. I get my 15 minutes or whatever. Like I'd sit down and just start writing stuff, and then you'd go test it out and see how people responded. But even beyond that, it was like the first real like sense of musical community that I had. I was always kind of like looking up, at that time I really began to like idolize a lot of like the Detroit bands and musicians and songwriters, just not just Detroit, but Michigan as a whole has a really rich and diverse music scene. And when I was young, I just thought the world of it and thought it was so cool, that everyone's 10 years older than me, and a lot of just great music. So I always kind of craved that, like, I don't know, like acceptance from my peers, or aspired to kind of be like in that world. And that's not exactly what happened, but this little coffee shop connected me with other musicians and people who liked cool music, and kind of gave me a comfortable and secure place to play every week, which I did for years.
Well, I know you were talking about getting everything together, and there was a progression from 2009 to finally a few years ago, quitting the job. So I want to jump forward now. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Jumping forward to the 2017 album Pluto. One of my favorite songs that you guys do, and we're going to play it for everybody. It's a smooth groove called Old Love. We'll be right back with Joe right here on Hayes' Hard Drive.
Expand across the fields like chrysanthemums in blue. It's the wind, so much to feel, and we're all just sick inside. So work it out, stick it out, work it out. Whoa, 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 whoa. And a promise is a promise. Will you finish what you started? I was born to believe that the change in the leaves could really mean anything. Love, I crossed the mountains and the ocean for ya, just to see. I need that old love, and I'm swimming in the dark. I need that cool love,
That's Old Love from the 2017 album Pluto from Joe Hertler and the Rainbow Seekers. I've been chatting with Joe about his musical journey of magic and how it all began. But now I want to talk about the new album, Paper Castle. How long did it take to, I know there's processes, you get the songs down, and then, you have to get all the arrangements, then you go in, you record all that. How long does this process end up taking you for this album?
Oh gosh, I mean, if you look at all of our albums, it's all over the place. Our first one we recorded in like a month and got out like 2 months later, but there was none of that kind of like business structuring around it. We just released it and tossed it out there. Pluto was I want to say it still probably took us a solid 2 years with all things said and done. We were kind of stuck in a record deal at the time, and I think we were kind of trying to wait that out. But I'd say like the actual recording process, because we did that, we self-produced it here in Michigan, and we were literally just bouncing between our own studios within the band and to other ones. But I want to say we got it done in like somewhere between like 8 and 10 months. And then, it took another year to just figure out like how we were going to release it. Like, were we going to try to do it with, at the time, which was Universal Record, the Universal Music Group. And we kind of decided to get off of that and just do, self-release it. So, and we were really unhappy with it, honestly. Like, we thought it was a kind of a bad record when we were making it. Like, I was pretty down throughout the process, thinking like, I just didn't write good enough songs. Like, it was a sad record, and I was like, man, maybe it's just not the right vibe for our listeners, especially compared to the one we had released previously, which was the record that kind of had gotten us started or gave us a real reason to like pursue this harder. And in like the last month of recording, I don't know what happened, but Kevin, our producer, just kind of pulled it off, managed to take all of these very dense arrangements and cut them down a bit, and make them a little more, I don't know, coherent and streamlined. And it ended up working and was, it's still, I think, our most listened to record, which I don't think any of us expected at the time. I really thought like, oh God, this record is going to ruin the band. You just have those doubts. It's a normal thing. And it ended up working. Old Love did great.
I can't get over just think that the thinking, because as I'm listening to it, and the first song that I had a chance to listen to, Loser, I just I heard that, and I don't know, are you this way with songs? When you hear them, you got about 10 or 15 seconds and you automatically know whether you want to continue listening to the rest of the song.
Yeah.
And with Loser, it took me 5 seconds. And actually, Joe, the first time that I had heard Loser was when you guys were here in Raleigh with Los Elk. And you were doing sound check, and I had popped in to see the guys there at Los Elk, and you guys were doing sound check, and I'm sitting there, and I hear the first. I'm like, wow, I had not heard the song as of yet, and man, when I heard it, I'm like, okay. The next thing I did, I pulled my phone right out and was like, yep, I've got to have this one on the playlist. So it's just amazing to me that from the singer-songwriter perspective, as you're going through the process, you guys were actually stressed out about, is this even worth something we want to put out? That's crazy. And then, as you go back and you listen, you're like, okay, yeah, this is good. Now, you were talking about you guys actually you put this out yourself. How do you feel about that? How is that in comparison to having the record label there? Do you feel like the record label's over top of the head? They're looking over the shoulder versus this one, you could kind of do a little bit more, a little autonomy with self-producing and doing that. Like, what's the difference between the two?
We've never really had a label come to us and be like, we don't like, we're usually doing distribution deals anyway. So it's not like there's a lot of investment on their part. They might throw us a, $5 or $10 grand for, help out with music videos or whatever, but there's never been like a huge investment from a record label. So yeah, what's it called? Pluto was released independently, and then the newest one, whatever it's called, what's the new record called? Paper Castle.
Paper Castle.
That was released on our current label, but no, they're kind of like an indie boutique label. So I think they're just taking on music that they already like and are releasing it. So I mean, they've given us a lot of feedback and a lot of great feedback on it. Tom Sarek, the guy who runs it, and, is a good buddy of mine. He's definitely kind of become someone I, send my demos to, and I value his opinion. He's got great taste, I think. And, I guess to answer your question, no, we've never felt like bullied in any way or like coerced into maybe doing something we didn't believe in. I think the feedback that we've got from Anti-Fragile has been, good and valuable feedback,
Right.
And certainly not domineering in any way.
Well, speaking of feedback, you guys, I mean, I think we talked off air. You said, we said 50 days, and you guys had 28 to 30 different venues, shows that you did in that amount of time, one of which we already mentioned was here in Raleigh. I mean, you guys were everywhere. You were all over the country. What, if anything, did you guys learn? I mean, stuck in a van together, I know that's difficult, but, being on all these shows and having the crowd reaction to all that, how was this tour that you guys had, especially so many shows in such a small amount of time?
It was great. I mean, every tour has its ups and downs, especially for a small band, because there's cities you've never played before, and you have no idea if there's going to be any people there. And sometimes you show up to a show and there is no one there. We had a couple shows where like 10 people showed up, but conversely, there was a bunch of shows, especially in like the Appalachian region and like the Pacific Northwest, where we hit markets that we've never played, and there was like 100 people there. This is excluding like the bigger, I guess, like the shows where we knew there was going to be a lot of people, like Colorado and, I guess I should say the Pacific Northwest, but it's just, it's such a treat when you show up to, say, Raleigh, and all of a sudden there's people there, where you really were like kind of going into the show thinking like there's probably gonna be 10 people, there's like 10 or 20 pre-sales or whatever, but then there's like, it's actually like this like super hype show. And those things, they lift you up a bit. You can't lie, that stuff is, gives you a little boost, to kind of make it to the next show. When we started out, like those first tours, we weren't ready for them. We were touring for the sake of touring because we thought it's what you're supposed to do. And that stuff can be like straight up heartbreaking. And it's I guess it's really encouraging now to be able to go out and like be able to, I guess, see the growth on a national level. It's like, all right, maybe this is working, like we have reason to keep doing this. So, it was cool, man. It was, I think overall a really good tour. There's still cities where we need to put some work in, but most of those places are just places that like we haven't got like a support look or something. We haven't opened for another band there. It's just like, there's just straight up, no one there who listens to us. Like I think it was Boise. In Boise, we had like 15 people, and those 15 people were like stoked. Some have been listening to us for years, and were like so ready for it. But yeah, I remember going through and looking at our like Facebook analytics, and I clicked on Boise, and it's like, there are 20 people in Boise who listen to your music. And so 15 of those people showed up. Which is like, all right, they at least showed up. They at least came out.
We were talking a little bit about, interviews and whatnot off the air. And what you said brings back a book that I read, and it was really good. And we had mentioned Charlie Daniels, which most people are really familiar with, but he wrote a book recently, Joe. And the name of that book was Never Look at the Empty Seats. Mm-hmm. And,
truth.
Pretty much, but obviously the man's 83 years old. By the time you get to that age, you're going to have a book, and you'll be able to write about all these things. But he's doing that from the same perspective, doing what you are doing right now and going through these things. But the message of the book is that, when we're at those shows, we're playing for those 15 people in Boise, not for the X amount of people that didn't show up. Because I think that most artists go through this. They go through those times to where they're considering, just as you said, man, is this something we really want to do? But then, you go to the next show and all of a sudden, it's just that roller coaster of emotion. But I really liked that perspective that he had, because I think that no matter what, if you don't look at the empty seats, you play for those people, but it also still gives you encouragement as the artist that, hey, look, these 15 people came and they are digging our music. And you guys do such a good job. Your live shows are spectacular because everybody's dressed up on stage. It's fun. And, on this last tour, you guys had, fog and lights and creative, stage displays. And, it's a really good show. And, it's always, just such a, it should be encouraging to you guys that you do such a great job and put your best foot forward. And I know personally we're looking for you to come back to Raleigh and, be here, whether it be the Poorhouse again or somewhere else. But we're really looking forward to having you guys stop by again on your next tour.
Awesome. Yeah, we're actually, we had a meeting yesterday on our, we're going to start touring again, and looks like February. I was like, oh my God, we're going back out
there
already?
You go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, really once, I'm looking at my calendar here, it's like, we go on Jam Cruise, like second week of January, and then after that, it's like every weekend up through May. And, oh, look, Beyond keeps going. And then it's festival season. Festival season's fun. Summer's fun. You just got to show up for a festival for a weekend or whatever, and then you go home for a couple days and do it again. So,
well, Joe, it is always a pleasure to get to talk to you. You're just such a uplifting, fun guy, and I just appreciate you taking your time out to come and talk with me. And I know that everybody wants to know, first off, how can I get a hold of these guys? How can I get to their music? You can check out Joe and the Rainbow Seekers by going to Joe Hertler. Hertler is spelled HERTLER.com. So I was talking about popping into the sound check, and we've talked about this new album, Paper Castle, and the boys were playing this song. The name of it is Loser. And this is Delane Hayes, and you are listening to Hayes' Hard Drive.
I said no, ain't in the mood to party. I said no, don't wanna get that laundry started. I gotta loosen out a ticket, but she thinks I'm a winner like a tree frog in the summer rain. I'd rather head out to my garden, get a fire started. Me and you and Mary Jane. always been a loser. I've always been a loser.